Hey, we are back with another episode of Go FUD Yourself. I don't even know what it is. I think 84.
84. Oh my God.
And the theme today is we ain't going nowhere. You can try as hard as you want to push us, us being the global crypto community.
Also us.
And us.
You're stuck with us here.
Yeah. We're not going anywhere. Anyways, JD Gagnon here, my good friend Kiara. How are you and what are we talking about?
I'm amazing. We are basically doing all the good news that we couldn't fit into our SEC FUD yesterday. So we're going to talk about the great things Swift is doing. We're going to talk about how other people like Crypto.com are stuck with America. We're going to talk about some nice feel-good stories about the future of custody, about the future of post-secondary institutions in crypto. We've got a couple things from Cosmos. And then we do have some bad news, a little bit about the SEC and a little bit about Reddit, but they're almost comedic in how bad they are. So it's a happy Tuesday is what I'm saying.
The Reddit one's pretty funny.
I think it's funny.
It's a daily show, Monday to Friday.
It's a daily
same
show.
place.
What are you wearing?
Same time. Like, subscribe, share, bookmark, do all that shit on Twitter in particular. Please help us spread the love. What am I wearing? I am a self-custody guru today. I think you should own your assets, which is pretty convenient considering our second topic. This is the Ambire wallet.
Yeah.
You can see it. So yeah, super excited. They've got another version of this shirt. Maybe I'll wear it tomorrow. Talking about SBF, it's really funny. So anyways, I think I've worn it before, but I'm a big fan.
It's still nice.
All right.
All right.
Let's freaking do it. All right, we are back. Mr. Producer is back, so our Twitter space is up and on time. So that's handy, and we can actually talk. Hopefully, I don't scream into the Twitter space today because that was
I think I just did today. So
yeah, my house is kind of like a little bit like a zoo at the moment because there's no schools out in the U.S. So my kids are running around, and I mean they've been dealing with work from home for their entire lives, but for some reason the first week of being done school is like pure chaos. Anyways, we are back.
Crazy. Thank you for joining us, and you too, Nikki.
For all of you on Twitter Spaces, another episode of Go FUD Yourself. We are back. We're excited. We've got some good news, some funny news, maybe some depressing news to talk about today. Where are we starting?
It's going to be a myriad of emotions. We're going to take you on a roller coaster journey.
Breezy, what's up? Welcome. Sorry. I'm just shouting out.
That.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, fuck! I didn't hear. I don't listen to you. What are you talking about?
I know. That's why I have to write it in a brief. All right, we're going to talk about Swift. So, JD, actually, you found this article. What the sweet heck is Swift doing?
Yeah. So there was an announcement a couple of weeks ago that Swift was partnering with Chainlink. Obviously, everybody was drooling over that. Swift, Chainlink token number go up.
Sorry, what were they doing?
They're partnering with.
Why did you make the noise again?
They're doing that. For those of you listening on Twitter, my face was pretty good during that.
Would recommend.
During that noise, yeah. So watch the video. Anyways, joking aside, Swift is exploring interoperability, and more specifically, they're working with Chainlink to create using, I believe, CCIP or a version of CCIP, cross-chain interoperability protocol, which is Chainlink's new product that they're trying to push out, to connect banks and other Swift-enabled institutions with blockchain transactions. So pretty exciting in some ways. I mean, one of the problems that I see with this, at least philosophically, is a really big reason that the US dollar is potentially losing its standing as the only reserve currency globally for global trade is because the US effectively has weaponized SWIFT. So for Western favored countries and jurisdictions, this is probably great, but this is likely something that won't be used by most other nations because, of course, you don't want to have a single pinch point of a centralized actor like SWIFT, who effectively takes marching orders from the US government, being in the middle of all of these transactions. There's a lot of reasons that blockchain technology evolved, in 2008, 2009, and Bitcoin, and then subsequently Ethereum. And obviously a lot of that had to do with the inefficiencies, the corruption, the nanny state, the oversight, the single point of failure that has to do with the correspondent bank system, SWIFT. There's lots of delays. There's lots of, fees and costs and inefficiencies. This seems to me like SWIFT is going, oh shit, we are about to lose our global monopoly on transfers from institution to institution, and they're trying to do something. Good on them. They partner with Chainlink, which gives them, a pretty good amount of exposure. Good on Chainlink. If I was Chainlink, I'd probably partner with SWIFT too, because regardless of whether we love them or not, they're huge and they have a lot of institutions that are already plugged in. So that's kind of where I'm at on this one. Yeah.
SWIFT connects over 11,000 financial institutions worldwide. Yeah. And so, and although a lot of those are Western, like Lloyd's or BNP, many of them are not, right? They connect to many smaller banks and that kind of thing as well. And they have struggled to move into the areas that most people struggle to move into, including, more rural parts of the world, parts of Africa, that kind of thing. And so, while they see there being an uptick in adoption in underserved communities, this is a really good way for them to expand in that way too.
Yeah, I think what we'll probably see here is there's a few steps of friction in institutional and enterprise onboarding. The first one, obviously, is how to get assets in and out. Like, let's keep regulation and compliance aside. That's been a bit of a challenge because a lot of the asset movement infrastructure at enterprise and financial institutions is bespoke in their back end. And so asking an institution to build a completely new structure to get money in and out of blockchain is a much bigger lift than saying, hey, instead of sending USD via SWIFT, you can send whatever currency via SWIFT right onto the blockchain. So they've already got the structure, they've already got the tech stacks, they've already got all of that stuff piped into their back end.
Pretty cool, actually.
It's one significant reduction in onboarding friction. Having said that, like I said, I think once a lot of these institutions become comfortable, it'll be pretty easy to make a switch, I think. Yeah. Especially as better infrastructure partners emerge, more on-chain native solutions and so on. But all in all, I think pretty positive. It's nice to see a shining spot, or at least a fairly notable institution partnering with another fairly notable institution in the midst of all the chaos currently. So
the other reason that I had to put this one first is because of the actual headlines that you're seeing around it. So if you haven't joined us before on Go FUD Yourself, we like to dispel the FUD, and we like to put your critical thinking hat on, also your tin hat. We wear a lot of hats here, but
mainly the tin hat. But
if you look at a lot of the articles that are talking about SWIFT and Chainlink and the blockchain interoperability, a lot of them are saying, in the face of the SEC, despite the SEC, SWIFT is moving forward, SEC be damned. And I just want you to know that they were doing this anyways. This isn't in a response to the SEC. This isn't something that they decided they were going to do overnight. They didn't see the news on Friday and they were like, we should do over the weekend is onboard 11,000 banks onto the blockchain. That's not what happened. So use your critical thinking hat when you see a lot of these headlines that are trying to pull you in. Likewise, also related to the SEC, there's been a bunch of really positive news, quote unquote positive news, about Crypto.com not giving up the arena name. So even though Crypto.com is not offering services to Americans anymore, they're still stuck with the arena name. I think this is so funny. And so all of the news, all of the headlines are like, in the face of the SEC, Crypto.com continues to support Americans. And it's like, no, they have a contract, actually. So I feel like you'll have opinions about this, JD.
They're also the title sponsor of the Miami Formula One. It's Crypto.com
That's right.
Grand Prix or whatever.
Yep.
This one's hilarious. Obviously, they probably had fairly tight language in their sponsorship contracts. I would assume you don't usually get naming rights to an arena, for Christ's sake, without pretty good reassurance that that they probably paid for the whole thing up front, I'm sure. Because otherwise the arena would always have people backing out and so on and so forth. So this doesn't say to me that crypto.com, this is some of the headlines are trying to imply that crypto.com is still trying to make a stake in America and they're going to come back and all this stuff. Maybe they will, I don't know. But they've got a couple of fairly large risk vectors in Kronos, their blockchain network, the CRO token, which invariably is likely considered a security according to the SEC, and similar risk profile, I think, to what FTX had with their token, FTT, and other things. So do I think this is really good? No, I think it's a nothing burger. Yeah, they had their contracts. Yep. They already paid for them. There's nothing they can do to get out of them. I don't think it signifies any commitment to the US going forward, but maybe they will stay relevant over the next couple of years, just based on this. At least people know who crypto.com is. And if they get their poop in a group and want to come back and play in the regulated space at some point, hopefully they've got good momentum.
They won't lose their brand top of mind recall legitimacy, every term you could possibly think of to justify this post-mortem. Okay, how about some actual good news?
Yep.
Ready? So Senso has launched a mobile-based self-custody wallet. Pretty exciting. I love mobile solutions because I think that is, I mean, everybody knows that that is where the world moves towards. If you want to get people who are rural, if you want to get people who don't have internet at home, if you want to have anyone who's unbanked, you need to have a mobile solution. And so it's interesting that we saw most of DeFi onboard via desktop. And I wonder what mobile solutions are actually doing for the space. And maybe Senso has an answer.
Yeah, I think, you know, they're not the first mobile first wallet. I mean, there's quite a few actually that exist. The problem with most mobile wallet structures is they suck. They don't browse. The browsers are horrible. The way that they interact with web pages and different things is usually super glitchy at best. I've got a bit of a problem with the proliferation of wallet providers, in that they've all built, and we're all guilty of this, right? Like, so we build the product often that we want, right? So I want this wallet that does this, this, and this. So I'm going to raise some money and build said wallet. The problem is that just because that's what I want doesn't mean it's what everybody else wants. And so the challenge with a lot of these wallets is they're fairly, they have a fairly singular focus, so to speak. And so we'll have to see how this evolves and how it's adaptable to different dApps. A lot of applications are trying to build their own wallets right now because the current wallet infrastructures just don't do what they need it to do. Which is why I'm a big fan of platforms like Guardian, who effectively is Lego blocks for wallets. So you can go and construct your own app-specific wallet, but from all of their existing Lego blocks, so you don't have to build it from scratch, which is pretty exciting. The other caution I have for this is a mobile phone. I believe it's right on the operating system.
It is. It even uses your biometrics, like your fingerprint and stuff.
Yeah, which is good on one hand and not so good on the other hand, because there's a lot of, SIM swapping is a big thing right now. Your phone is by far the greatest exposure you have to phishing and other things because it's easy to click on links. You have auto download in a lot of apps that can be seriously problematic. So we'll have to see. I mean, they raised a decent amount of money. They've got a good team. The product is good. So we'll see. But I do like to see mobile first. I'm with you on that one. I think a lot of the world, including
No, I just like to see that we're kind of growing into new spaces, which was going to bring me to my next one. But instead of just thinking about the degens and the people who are crypto natives, we're now thinking about those who are crypto curious and how they're actually going to access it. So doing something like opening a MetaMask browser and then, well, first of all, downloading that, knowing that you have to do that, trying to connect your wallet that way, having your seed phrase in something, it becomes like too many steps for the average person who's crypto curious. Whereas having something that you can sign in with the way that you do on Web 2 already on your phone, your primary point of entry, it's just it reduces so much gatekeeping to the space. And in this one in particular, they are talking about how hedge fund managers, market makers, Web3 firms can also use it. But honestly, I don't know that that's who we're going to see take that as a big uptick. But the future of this too is, who else do we need to target? Like, if we want crypto, if we want blockchain finance, if we want DeFi and degens to become the norm, we need to start onboarding people sooner, which is essentially what the University of Toronto is doing with Ripple. So
yeah, just before we move on, I like that segue, but before we move on, what's kind of interesting, I think, of just about the wallet infrastructure is, especially from a custody perspective, is like, so I'm wearing a shirt, obviously, that says self-custody guru. But a lot of the problems that we've seen lately are because of centralization in some form or fashion, in some ways. And so what blockchain has tried to do is move us towards more self-custody, more, independence and control over your assets and over your risk. In some cases, we're moving backwards with some of these new applications because people don't want that responsibility. But as soon as you take some of that responsibility away from the end user, what you're doing is you're centralizing those risks. And so if they don't have to keep their seed phrase, then who keeps the seed phrase? Mm-hmm. Like, is it as secure then as, something like a Ledger wallet? Or if it's sharded seed phrase or, fragmented and held by different people, then we have the same problem that who has the components? Can they collude? What are the risk vectors? I think we'll see probably quite a few challenges over the next couple of years, just with all these new wallet structures coming out and people figuring out ways to spoof them. But it's a necessary evil. So anyways, I am excited about it, but
you really killed my segue. Like, I got nothing now.
Cautiously optimistic. But okay, University of Toronto.
I had set it up so smoothly.
No, it was a great segue. I totally totally.
All right. So this is big news for Canadians, but I think it's actually big news for the world, because obviously Toronto is a very international university, being Canada's largest university, and we do have a myriad of different campuses with the Toronto campus. Anyways, Ripple is working with the University of Toronto to establish an independent XRP ledger validator. So aside from that being cool from a tech perspective, which I'm hoping JD will talk about, this is also incredible from an onboarding perspective. So getting, I want to say youth because I'm old now, but getting students to actually engage, I don't love that it's with a specific brand, but to actually engage in blockchain technology without necessarily taking a blockchain technology course is a wonderful way to onboard students into all kinds of things. When I was a business student, I did every case competition I could find, all of that kind of stuff. And that's how I learned about car insurance and luxury fashion and all of these different things. So even just to open people's eyes up to the industries that are coming up or that will exist, I think this is a huge step forward for the crypto industry.
I completely agree. I've got a few thoughts on this one. I think the first one, to me, is a lot of these post-secondary institutions for novel technology like this, in order to run a validator, there's a certain amount of cost associated with that, risk on to a certain extent. And a lot of these institutions just don't have the risk profile nor the resources to be able to do this on their own. It's very difficult to learn these emerging technologies without actually being able to operate and to build and to play with them. So this, I think, scratches a few itches. They have a direct line of communication with Ripple, so they've got very good tech support. I'm assuming the grant that Ripple provided them would include XRP, which is what has to seed the validator, and other things. So I think it's really interesting for practical hands-on experience, which is probably underserved in many post-secondary institutions, maybe not so much from a technical perspective, but even from a business perspective. You learn a lot of theory in business school, but you don't get near as much practical application. So this is very good.
I do want to note that before you go on, that this isn't the first time Ripple has done this. They actually have partnerships with over 45 universities worldwide. And this is the second one in Canada, but it's the biggest one in Canada. And it's just kind of like a good news feel. But with that, they've, aside from the XRP, they've donated over 47 million to their global university partners in the last 2 years. So it's a pretty big influx. You know what I mean? That backs up what you were just saying. So.
Perfect segue, actually, because my next point was, I think strategically, this is a very, very, very smart move on Ripple's part. I think it's very similar to how we see the evolution of culture. Often it starts in the education systems. And then, you get enough people that become accustomed, familiar with certain technologies or certain culture items, and then that just becomes commonplace because it's something that they're all used to and comfortable with. It's a long play, right? It takes generations to impact the education system and ergo impact culture. Technology probably a little bit faster, but I think this is a long-term investment. But we're seeing the fruits of this, not just from Ripple, but there's a lot of post-secondary institutions now that have blockchain associations, that have crypto conferences, that enable their academics, PhDs, tenured professors to launch protocols while still operating as a professor. And it's quite fruitful for the institution. Prime example is Cornell and Avalanche.
Yeah.
Cornell actually owns the patent in conjunction with Avalabs, and they own a big chunk of Avalanche, as far as I understand. Mm-hmm. And they have the IC3 conference, which is coincidentally going on right now in New York City. And I'm not there, unfortunately. But all of that being said, I think we're seeing a lot of academics. I talk about this quite a bit. We're seeing a lot of very sophisticated, financial minds starting to build really complex and interesting products on the blockchain. And I think this just continues to expand that exposure to academia, to a new crop of students, technologists, entrepreneurs that otherwise wouldn't have the same exposure. I think this is smart for the space, it's smart for Ripple, and it's great for the institution. So this one, to me, is a win-win-win. I love it.
Okay, are you ready for some good Cosmos news?
Yes.
Nolus, which is on Cosmos and is also a Borrowland protocol, has joined the Cointelegraph Accelerator. So they are very excited to get the mentorship that they need to be successful on Cosmos. And I don't know, I just like seeing the ecosystem support one another.
Yeah, this is interesting on two fronts. I think anytime that you can get into an accelerator with a well-known brand, especially if it's one of your first kind of cracks at launching protocols, amazing. This is also interesting. Cointelegraph is owned by Binance, I think, or DCG. I can't remember.
I'm going to look it up.
Nonetheless, regardless of whether it's DCG or Binance that owns Cointelegraph, I think it might be Binance. Regardless, it's an ecosystem that it is DCG. Yeah, it's an ecosystem we haven't seen a hell of a lot of participation from either DCG or Binance, and so this to me suggests it's on the radar. I mean, they're starting to incubate or accelerate projects into Cosmos, which means de facto, I think they have an interest in the ecosystem, which is great. I mean, it's good to see more mainstream interest, more institutional interest in Cosmos. Cosmos has always been a very developer-centric ecosystem, and it really hasn't had a lot of fanfare, especially institutional fanfare. And I think this is great. I mean, say what you will about DCG and Barry and everybody else, but they're a huge player in the space, and so I think it's great to see. Great to see.
I do want to note that Nolus is talking about their Borrowland as a lease, and they're saying that it will work in a different way than other Borrowland protocols. I'm curious to see how that actually comes up, and I will post the white paper for you to check it out as well. So do your own research before you go. This is not financial advice. We're not saying go necessarily invest with them, but do continue supporting one another in this beautiful ecosystem.
Also worth noting, we do not generally endorse protocols. We also do not take any payment for any of these comments. So if a protocol or a platform or a project asks us to do a spotlight, we do not do that. We just go based on prevailing news and things that are interesting. Again, the point of Go FUD Yourself is not to take in a bunch of advertising dollars, etc. We will take merch though. If you want a shout out, that's the only way that you can buy yourself a shout out is send me merch. Size medium.
Some good lady merch.
Size medium. Yeah, lady merch. I mean, I'll wear a bikini. If someone sends me a bikini.
You're only a medium? I thought you were like jacked. In your cartoon profile, you're like.
That's the only reason that I look jacked is because I wear really small clothes.
Okay, are you ready for the bad news?
This is actually, I don't know if it's bad. This is funny.
I don't know.
I think
funny.
This is funny.
So Reddit is having a bad time You take this one. I don't know. I'm going to laugh if I try.
So yeah, this is kind of hilarious. I find it funny. I'm not really a big Reddit user. I find the user experience kind of shit. I don't like the post restrictions and some of this other stuff. And there's a lot of gatekeeping on Reddit. So I'm not a huge fan to begin with. But I always find this interesting when you see like this crazy backlash of this like subculture. It's like all these Redditors are like freaking the hell out because there's API charges now and they can't just pipe information for free the way that they used to. I mean, as a society, we have to stop thinking that all of these tech platforms are public goods. I mean,
yeah,
they're for-profit businesses. They have to be in many ways. And Reddit is no different, obviously, than any other data, social media, informational type platform. Yeah, they have ad revenue and so on. But when all of these other businesses are using the Reddit API to make money, absolutely, there should be some value accrual back to Reddit. I think this is interesting because to everybody other than core Reddit communities and people that have this API, this is a complete nothing burger. Like they're all.
Yeah, it's like a duh moment, right?
Yeah. What happened? Why did I hold on?
So the other thing that's interesting about this is that part of why they're doing it is because of the infrastructure of AI. So they're saying that AI chatbots are now basically taking the data. And as they take the data, this poses a threat to Reddit users as well. So kind of an interesting point that they aren't just doing it to make money, but they also have this like potentially ethical reason to do it, which I think is interesting. Now, the other element of why this is getting talked about in crypto news, of course, is that crypto users love Reddit. There's lots of alpha subreddits. There's lots of like Avalanche has a huge Reddit community. They have their own page and that kind of thing. And anywhere that you're seeing like devs work together or this ecosystem being really strong, you're probably going to see a strong Reddit ecosystem in the crypto community. But they're trying to equate this to like it's anti-crypto because it isn't transparent anymore. But with that type of with that attitude, that means that all crypto businesses and all of your dexes and all of your protocols, all of your dApps and all of your chains are going to be absolutely transparent. And that's simply not the case. Like we know that the ledger is transparent and the ledger is public, but it's not like all of the data feeds that MetaMask is getting are transparent, right? And you're still happy to use them. So I find this a little bit of a double standard where Reddit was doing something that was pretty decentralized. They don't feel that they can anymore, whether that's because of profit or safety or other technology advents. And it seems like a weird backlash to give them. And I wonder how long it's going to last. Like, are people going to move over to Mastodon? I kind of doubt it.
Maybe. I mean, it's probably not a horrible time to start building a presence on Mastodon. Check us out there. I think we've got a Mastodon. Is it up now? Is our Mastodon up?
No, because we still need the domain.
Oh, just kidding. But we're working on putting up a Mastodon, which is exciting. But I think what the real challenge here is that a lot of these communities, their information has been sold via Reddit and via APIs through other companies for a long time. And now, in response to this, the big communities, a lot of them are going private. They're saying, hey, our information is not available to everybody, and you cannot pipe it through the API. And so as a consequence, I think what you get as a result of using the API is not the full picture anymore because so much of Reddit has gone private. I think that's like when you boil this down, that's actually what the end consequence is. But obviously everybody, kicks and screams about what seems to be most publicly appealing. But I think that's the real challenge is a lot of the big communities have gone private. I mean, we're seeing that there's a lot of Substacks and stuff now that are paid and different things, which are interesting. Everybody's trying to monetize their value, right?
Their content.
Yeah. So.
Except us. We're just here taking merch for free. All right. To end, a little bit of funny news is continuing on about the SEC. I kind of just wanted to bring this up. It's not like it's really new news from yesterday, but you're going to see a lot of SEC headlines this week. And I need you to put your critical thinking hats on, your tin hats on, and consider, is this new news or is this fear mongering? Has something new happened? kind of the best way that I found to check that out is to go to the actual SEC website and see if they have any press releases or new blogs or news up, because it does all get published there. Or you can just go to Gary Gensler's Twitter if you really hate yourself. I hate doing that. It's always so cringe. But people are really worried that the new SEC proposal, aside from impacting the altcoins and making them, securities or outlawing them, is that it's going to change how DEXs are regulated, because they will probably have to register as some sort of certified program.
Yeah. This to me is like, yeah. And obviously they're trying, whatever the classification of crypto assets are, if they are in fact securities in the end or commodities or whatever, that there is requirements and registration that has to happen to participate in the US under any circumstance. So I think like this to me is just a little bit of clickbait.
Okay, well, the one reason that this isn't clickbait, and the one reason I had to talk about it today, is that you can actually comment on the proposal until end of day today.
Yes. So important. Let your voices be heard peacefully. I want to do my Trump impression, but maybe today's not the day. Maybe today's not the day. But anyways, go and make some comments. I mean, make thoughtful comments. Obviously, if you want to be taken seriously, be professional. Don't get on there and be a stain on the space by kicking and screaming and talking like a degen, which some of us want to do, but that's not the venue. This is
Doesn't help.
This is the venue for constructive feedback. But yeah, I think I just don't see a world where this isn't going to be the case. Like where, especially exchanges, but most likely other DeFi protocols and many other protocols will have some registration obligation. I guess we'll find out. All of that to say, today we had some positive news. We only talked about the SEC a little bit.
Some good news.
I'm sure we'll make up for it tomorrow. Tomorrow's the rate hike and
Wednesday is DGen news.
But we will be talking about interest rates tomorrow because we'll have to wait and see. The interest rates will not. I don't think they'll be announced by the time we go live, but there's usually some leakage beforehand, so we'll see what happens. Anyways, daily show, Monday to Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, same place, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Twitch, YouTube, Spotify.
You're muted on Twitter again.
My headphones are going bananas, and it's muting my microphones and changing everything. I think I need like an on-premise producer to manage my chaos. Anyways, sorry to Twitter Spaces.
It's going to be the most expensive low-budget show ever. Just having 6 people managing JD.
I need people everywhere. Makeup, wardrobe, all of that aside, we do this Monday to Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, all those places. Like, share, subscribe, bookmark, do all that shit. Help us out. Try to spread the word and keep people out of trouble and in the know. With that, Kiara, I'd say to you, go FUD yourself.